You're watching Mirror 7 News. Stay informed, stay ahead for more news.
Here's the latest on the immigration front in Florida. The so-called Alligator Alcatraz, a detention center in the Everglades, has been allowed to stay open after a federal appeals court temporarily blocked a judge's order to shut it down. This ruling came from the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals in Atlanta, where a 2-1 decision sided with Florida and the Department of Homeland Security. Essentially, the lower court's injunction, which would have forced the facility to begin dismantling within 60 days, has been put on hold while the legal battle continues. The facility, located on a remote, virtually abandoned airport surrounded by sensitive wetlands, had been ordered closed last month by U.S. District Judge Kathleen Williams. Environmental groups and the Miccosukee tribe had argued that the detention center was built without proper federal environmental review and was harming the fragile Everglades ecosystem. At that time, the Department of Homeland Security had begun moving detainees out of the site in compliance with the judge's order. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis welcomed the appeals court ruling, emphasizing that the state would continue using the facility. Alligator Alcatraz is, in fact, like we've always said, open for business, he stated. DeSantis argued that the location, a swampy, remote airstrip, was chosen to prevent escape, drawing a parallel with the infamous Alcatraz Island prison. He also criticized the lower court for halting the facility's use over environmental review concerns, calling it an overreach. The appeals court's majority opinion focused on the fact that the project was funded and operated by Florida, not the federal government. Because no federal funding had been formally used for construction yet, the court ruled that the detention center did not trigger federal environmental review requirements under the National Environmental Policy Act, that is NEPA. 2 Trump-appointed judges supported the ruling, while an Obama-appointed judge dissented, arguing that federal involvement in planning and promises of funding effectively made the facility a major federal action and thus subject to NEPA. The Department of Homeland Security described the ruling as a win for the American people, the rule of law and common sense, insisting that the lawsuit had never been about environmental concerns, but rather about activists and judges attempting to block the removal of dangerous criminal aliens. Environmental groups, however, called the decision a heartbreaking blow to the Everglades and vowed to continue fighting. They stressed that the case is far from over and are preparing for further legal action. The center, which was hastily constructed in July, has been widely criticized for harsh conditions, including sweltering heat, insect infestations, and limited access to legal services for detainees. Reports of environmental damage and threats to local wildlife have added to the controversy, with Native American tribes and conservation groups raising concerns about long-term harm to the region. While the appeals court has temporarily allowed operations to continue, the broader legal fight over Alligator Alcatraz and its impact on both human and environmental welfare is ongoing. Florida is also exploring additional detention sites, signaling that immigration enforcement efforts in the state are likely to expand despite continuing legal and public opposition. In short, Alligator Alcatraz remains open for now, but the story is far from finished, as environmental, legal, and human rights debates continue to swirl around this controversial Everglades facility. Stay subscribed for more videos.